TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin, broadcast from Jerusalem. Anti-Semitic terror strikes at the heart of London. President Donald Trump reaffirms his pledge not to allow Iran to gain nuclear weapon capabilities. The Islamic Republic of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, proclaims his regime will maintain its nuclear and ballistic missile capabilities. The number of anti-Semitic acts of terror are on the rise, with the latest stabbing attacks in the United Kingdom, which took place in London yesterday, identified with links to a foreign adversarial state actor. The attack was perpetrated by a 45-year-old fundamentalist Islamist with prior violent convictions, which law enforcement referred to as mental health issues.
They responded to reports of people being stabbed in Highfield Road in northwest London. They attended along with the local ambulance service. Two men, one in his 70s and one in their 30s, were treated at the scene for stab wounds, and they are now taken to hospital. The 45-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and remains in custody following a checkup at the local hospital. He has a history of serious violence and mental health issues, and that investigation continues. Our counter-terrorism policing teams have already formally declared this incident as a terrorist attack. It's another horrendous act of violence directed against our Jewish communities, which follows a series of arson attacks in recent weeks. It will rightly shock and anger people across London and in the immediate communities and across the country. My first thoughts are with the two British Jews who were attacked whilst going about their daily lives, which they should be able to do freely and safely in their own local community.
The latest terror attack against the Jewish community in London has yet again amplified the severe implications by a lack of government response to the rise of Islamist elements throughout Western countries at large, and Europe in particular.
Do I want to stay here? I have to, because my children don't want to leave, but I want to leave. I don't feel safe anymore. I'm not sure there's much future for my children here, actually, but that's the reality of it. Are the government going to do anything meaningful? Well, let's wait and see. Don't hold your breath.
So I'm a local teacher. I teach in a Jewish girls' school just up the road. The girls were quite hysterical when they heard. They didn't know, is it their family, their cousins, who knows? This morning again, we have to go back to school, reassuring them, comforting them, had to ensure they all had a way to get home also. So we're scared for them, but we also have to make ourselves feel comfortable in the situation and protect ourselves.
A bit of a rough day yesterday. As soon as we heard, it's very hard to concentrate and keep calm, carry on. A bit nervous, but hopefully we're going to be able to keep on, carry on, and we're going to have to work harder, and hopefully this police is going to support us volunteering and looking after to protect the community.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, in response to the latest act of anti-Semitic terrorism on British soil, pledged to do more to confront the root cause of both anti-Semitism and extremism.
Let me start by saying what an appalling attack this is, and my thoughts and all of our thoughts are with the victims, their families, and their loved ones. And let's be frank, this is not an isolated incident. There have been a series of anti-Semitic attacks, and I know firsthand the anxiety that is causing in the community and concern. I was at Kenton Synagogue last week, where I heard a lot about that level of anxiety. It'll be worse after today. We're very much in touch with the community, and I'll visit as soon as possible. Well, the government is taking action in relation to security, cohesion, extremism, but of course it's our responsibility to coordinate the immediate response here to this appalling attack, to ensure security is in place, to take other measures. I'm holding a meeting tomorrow with the criminal justice agencies to make sure that we can have effective and swift justice in these cases. But we do have to recognise the levels of anxiety and concern there are that I know about in terms of the Jewish community feeling very much exposed and vulnerable, feeling they've got to hide their identity, sometimes in the health service, sometimes at school, on the streets where they live. And it's our job to make sure that they feel safe and secure. It's our job to make sure that we absolutely deal with the roots of anti-Semitism and extremism. That is what we will do.
In other news, Russian President Vladimir Putin, after meeting with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Moscow, held a phone conversation with U.S. President Donald Trump, during the course of which he has offered Moscow's help to secure a diplomatic resolution to the conflict with the Ayatollah regime in Iran. President Putin's aide, Yuri Ushakov, in a phone interview, said the Kremlin was glad that President Trump had decided to extend the ceasefire with Iran yet again, that after President Putin publicly stated his pledge to help advance Iranian interests in the Middle East.
The presidents focused on the situation around Iran and in the Persian Gulf. Vladimir Putin finds Donald Trump's decision to extend the ceasefire in Iran to be right. It should give negotiations a chance and help stabilize the situation. Russia is firmly determined to provide comprehensive assistance to diplomatic efforts in search of peaceful solution of the crisis and proposed several ideas aimed at settlement of disagreements around Iran's nuclear program.
Meanwhile, at the White House, President Trump responded to a question about his conversation with his Russian counterpart.
He told me he'd like to be involved with the enrichment if he can help us get it. I said I'd much rather have you be involved with ending the war with Ukraine. To me, that would be more important because we're gonna have that. Look, we're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon, and we've knocked out their Navy, we've knocked out their Air Force, we've knocked out their anti-aircraft, everything, apparatus, everything they have, their radar, they have very little left. And they have some missiles, a small percentage. They have a small percentage of missile-making facilities. We knocked out about 80% of them. The rest could come very quickly if we don't make a deal. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They know it. And just about everybody else does. And so we talked about that a little bit. He doesn't want to see them have a nuclear weapon either. But I had a long talk with President Putin. I suggested a little bit of a ceasefire, and I think he might do that. He might announce something having to do with it.
Elsewhere in Washington, the U.S. Congress Armed Services Committee held a hearing which included testimonies from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, as well as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of General Staff, General Dan Kane, among others, during the course of which the top Pentagon official emphasized the importance of Operation Epic Fury.
All it took was the courage to act, which no other president had done. And he gave us a clear set of objectives, which the chairman and I talked about from day one. In pursuit of ensuring that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, you degrade their missile program, defeat their missile program, get at their conventional Navy, and ensure they don't have a defense industrial base so they can rebuild those capabilities. That's what we briefed from the podium. That's what we talked about. That's what we were focused on. And in service of that, had overwhelming military victories in pursuit of it. I mean, we've never seen an air campaign like what we did alongside the Israeli Air Force, not to mention the rescue of those two pilots and the professionalism of that joint force that went downtown twice, once in the day and once in the night, to leave no man behind. That is a call the commander-in-chief makes, and he had the guts to make it. And as a result, we're in a ceasefire, in the middle of negotiations, in a very strong place with a blockade that will ensure that when this is done, when a deal is set, it's a deal on the president's terms to ensure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. That's a fight worth having. And if the American people remember 47 years, Americans remember 47 years of what the Iranians have done to us, targeting and killing Americans. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. This president has unleashed his military to do something about it. We've had historic successes. And if we need to go at it again to ensure that success, we are prepared to. But we're hopeful over time that a deal will be compelled and compelled quickly. So this talk about endless wars or forever wars, the president points out rightfully, what this town tolerated in Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam. That is not this.
Secretary Hegseth continued by labeling Iran's activities in the Strait of Hormuz as sheer piracy.
What they're doing right now is effectively piracy. It's terrorism. It's threatening international shipping. And our blockade is signaling to the world that we actually control that strait. And I would ask this committee, what would this effort look like if Iran had nuclear weapons? Imagine if not Iran had nuclear capabilities, what they would do to wield over any advantage they have, from proxies to funding international terrorism.
It is important to highlight that the RGC published earlier today a letter by the Islamic Republic's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, who remains in hiding, in which he supposedly stated, quote, "With more than 2 months having passed since the major military escalation and aggression by world powers and what followed, the American failure, a new era is taking shape in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Iran will continue to maintain and develop its military and technological capabilities, including in the nuclear and ballistic missile fields." Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. I'd like to seize this opportunity to highlight that since TV7 Israel News is exclusively donation-based, we are in need of your help in order to continue with our daily productions from here in Jerusalem. To donate, you can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. I'm Jonathan Hassan, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.